Welcome back, you whiskey ambassadors, to Whiskey One, the channel for the novice, the curious, and the connoisseur. So today we're going to be trying the AD Laws Sauternes Cask Finish Rye Whiskey. So stick around. Alright, here we go again with some Laws Whiskey House Fine Whiskey. Now, I want to put out a little disclaimer. Before all of you dive into this bottle, I think this is more appropriate for the connoisseur. And before you dive into this, I think you should all get your hands on the San Luis Valley Rye Whiskey first. Now this is the cask strength. I prefer cask strength. If I have the option between standard bottling and a cask strength, I'll be going for the cask strength. But the focus today is going to be on the Sauternes cask, not necessarily this bad boy. I just want to make a mention that you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Whiskey One Channel, and we always encourage you guys to subscribe. If you do, make sure to hit that bell notification so you get the alert next time we drop our next video. I also want to mention one thing. Due to Corona, the COVID, I gotta say that it's been hampering my ability to go to the Laws Whiskey House tasting room, and it's really impacted Laws Whiskey House. But one cool thing that they've done is offered these bottles completely online, and in doing so, I was able to get my hands on these free set of tumblers, and I really think they look great. Simple, elegant, to the point, and I'm going to be kind of experimenting and trying these with you for the first time. So let's get started and have a pour, shall we? So I do got to make a mention, if I haven't already, these are just amazing looking decanters. They're just good conversation starters and just classic designs. So let's now pour this San Luis Valley Rye. This is a cask strength, like I mentioned before. And I'm just going to pour just a little. Just enough to have a taste. So one thing I want to mention is this one's been aged for a little longer than your standard bottling. Although this one's aged for 3 years in oak barrels, this has got the same amount of time in those oak barrels, but they added a little extra touch. They got the additional extra aging for 7 months in those Sauternes casks. And I'm really interested just to see what that tastes like. Now, mind you, a Sauternes cask is a French oak. And this is typically aged in white American oak or virgin oak, right? So let's have a little nosing and talk about this whiskey. Man, okay. I'm going to go back to this. This is very interesting in my opinion. Right off the bat, my initial smell of it is that it's chocolatey, like dark chocolate. But it's very herbal, piney, and vibrant. I get lemon meringue pie. I also get like dried raisins. And it's not too oak forward or anything like that. I think the oak presence is subtle. It's there just enough to let you know it's there to play. And for the most part, it's nice and balanced. There's nothing that's really overwhelming coming out of this glass. Now this is bottled at 50% ABV. And I think for the most part, there's a ton of ryes that you can find out there right now that are bottled at that strength. So going back to that nose, like I mentioned, chocolatey, like cocoa powder. But it is a little zesty, spicy, not overly spicy. And one thing that I remember is that the San Luis Valley Rye is spicy, right? It's got some kick to it. But I just gravitate to Laws Whiskey, and I want to point out that I'm really a fan of what they do just because they're really bold and different. They set themselves apart from other distillers, and even though they're new to the whiskey scene as compared to large distillers, they're just really doing their own thing, doing it their way, and they're doing it the right way. But back to the nose. Man, it's just really vibrant and definitely unique. let's go back to the San Luis Valley Rye. And all right, so for this guy, a lot of the things that I get out of this, the experiential bottling, I don't get as much chocolatey character, but it is spicy and a little less subtle. I think for the most part, a French oak cask does make it a little spicier. One thing that I did notice on their website is they did mention that this is triple distilled just to give it a little bit of a smoother character. And going to this, the San Luis Valley Rye, being a cask strength, it does have a little bit more bite to it. But as far as the nose, these are really close to each other. It's just that this one feels a little bit more piney, a little bit more floral, a little bit more lemon meringue. I'm just going to do a quick additional comparison between the two. The San Luis Valley Rye just felt a little different. It's subtle though, that's the difference. Although this is a Sauternes Cask finish and it's probably going to be a little bit more vibrant or spicier, I'm not really catching that. So kind of head to head, this one is also very citrusy. I'm going to the Sauternes Cask. I think something that really stands out is it's a bit more like sandalwood and raisiny as well. The kind that you would get like in a trail mix or something like that. And it is a bit more herbal and floral on the nose. So I don't typically drink out of tumblers, but we're going to give it a try. Okay, this is chewy. Man, very viscous, but it's nice and well balanced. For me, on the taste, this is just kind of flowing from the front to the back of the palate. There's nothing that really stands out sort of on that mid palate, but right up front, it's fruity, citrusy, and it's got that lemon meringue character to it. And I'm talking about that nice whip topping where they toast the very top, and then that nice delicate lemon creaminess to it. And that's what's really shining here. I think you're gonna want to first explore the San Luis Valley Rye before you dive into this, but I can tell you a lot of the character, uniqueness, that quality that you get from the San Luis Valley Rye is all here. It's just a nice little subtle difference, and it's got a beautiful touch to it. I feel like this one is more of a lemon meringue. So let's have a little sip of water, cleanse that palate, of course, and then we're going to go back to the San Luis Valley Rye. Let's have ourselves a taste. All right. Oh yeah, so one thing that's definitely setting itself apart from this is got a little bit more bite to it, feels a little bit more coating, warming, and pretty much what I got from here, I got on the San Luis Valley Rye. It feels a little bit more fruitier and not as dry. This has got a bit of a dry finish to it and not really as long. This one is long and drawn out. That thing just wants to hang out and keep it there, doesn't want to let go. A little bit more, and then finally it starts to simmer down and say, all right, we're done here. For the Sauternes Cask, not as much. And maybe some of that has to do with this being a higher ABV, but it's really off by 8% alcohol. And I don't know if that little bit of a difference is going to be the thing that really stands out because of it. Going back to the Sauternes Cask, the one thing that really stands out the most is just that finish. This is different in its finish. So let's take another sip of water, cleanse that palate, and let's go back to this. This feels like cocoa, chocolate, and it feels very distinct, like a dark chocolate. You know, it's got a little bit of bite to it, but just not as spicy. Yeah, it's got all of your classic characters as well. Real herbal, like I said, but it's got like that fresh cut grass, clove, and it's a bit minty as well. But the thing that truly stands out is just that finish. I mean, it's a finished cask, so one wonders, but it's got that dry finish, and you typically get that with those French oak casks. Bourbons, rye, other whiskeys that tend to finish in those French oaks tend to have that dry finish. Whereas the standard San Luis Valley rye is a bit more drawn out, long, lingering finish. This one just doesn't have that same character to it. Now the flavor is there, don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit more citrusy and vibrant. For a score, I gave this one a 4.5 the last time, and oh yeah, it's well deserving of a 4.5. The experiential bottling, I have to definitely give it a 4.25. Now, you're probably wondering why. Lots of complexity, sure. Lots of flavor, yeah, and it is unique. But I think the one thing that's sort of distracting is the fact that it doesn't have as long a finish. It doesn't hold on, it's just not as ever present as the cask strength. And that's okay. I think a 4.25 out of 5 is definitely a solid mark, and I think it tastes great. I'm also giving the 4.25 on is the price. And I think that for what it provides, I think the price should be a little bit lower. It's a bit high, and it does taste great, it's unique and all that, but I think that for that kind of price, you really should be offering it at cask strength. So my final thoughts on the Sauternes cask. Do I recommend it? Sure. Now it really comes down to personal preference. For me, I've tried the San Luis Valley cask strength, love it, phenomenal. The Sauternes cask, this is going to be more for the connoisseur, so it really matters what you're into and what you're looking for. If you're looking for something slightly different than this because you've already tried it, yes, I highly recommend it. And I think it's just a great whiskey. So I don't know about you, but we had a lot of fun tasting these two together. Hopefully you're able to get your hands on it and compare along with us. And it was really cool just to do a side-by-side comparison of the experiential series along with that cask strength. Both great ryes. So we really appreciate you guys also joining us here on the channel. Hopefully you're not new to the channel, but if you are, welcome. And here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. So cheers.